not since the Trustworthy Computing Memo was released in 2002 has there been this much concentrated focus on cybersecurity. With the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, cybersecurity is suddenly a priority for citizens and governments in ways that data breaches, identity theft, credit card fraud, and PII leaks never were. But these attacks aren't substantially changed, just the monetization model and collateral damage. Everyone's being attacked by the same unsophisticated techniques that are being used to gain a foothold. On our side, we have unbelievable, overwhelming numbers. We have pen testers, vulnerability researchers, threat hunters, forensic experts, incident responders, red teams, blue teams, green teams, purple teams. We have 24/7 rotations of duty officers, automated tooling, threat modeling, SDL programs, security training, and still attackers pwn, rinse, repeat over and over. If we're going to turn the tide, we have to do something differently. And the changes probably at this point aren't even technical so much as they are cultural. Many companies for the last 15 to 20 years thought that they weren't going to be a target for attackers, that they weren't lucrative, big enough, valuable enough compared to others. Or maybe they thought that their business risk was low to negligible. I mean, even if attackers did strike, how bad could it really be? Home Depot, Target, Equifax, they're all doing just fine after their PR blips, right? We've watched our neighbors' houses burn down and we thought we were safe. Maybe we even engaged in a little self-righteous victim blaming. Maybe we saw how the neighbor's house caught fire. We did some defensive fortifications of our own house. But did we help any of our other neighbors fortify and defend their houses? Have we kept those defenses up to date? Are we constantly vigilant on all of them? Maybe some of you were worried about supply chain attacks before SolarWinds. I certainly hope so. We had all the signs. Attackers leveraged struts, Ruby gems, webmin. And so what did we do about that before SolarWinds made it very real for a lot of people? Did your company previously shrug its collective shoulders and say it's complicated? The open source mantra of many eyes makes it secure has been pretty thoroughly disproven at this point, because many eyes means someone else. It's not my responsibility. I'm not accountable. That lots of people use it. Anyone could look at it. But the question is, have you? Why are you implementing code you haven't personally assessed and determined was good? It's complicated. It's hard. It's big. There's a lot of open source being used, a lot of supply chain. And it's indirect responsibility. And that's why it's a cultural problem more than a technical problem. It's the cultural problem of saying, I'm going to dedicate resources to this. I'm going to dedicate budget to this. The technical pieces aren't hard. It's the cultural resilience to invest in it. Whether it's open source or your own internal in-house products or services or code or network, maybe after seeing some of these breaches, every time something hits the news, you get a little more funding to build up those defensive fortifications of your house. But was it enough? Did you get enough security hygiene resources for those fundamentals that you need to land? Because our attackers have not been idle, and they are not going to give us any breaks. This is not going to be a fair fight. They're going for our weak spots. They're not using these sophisticated attacks. Why would they? They don't need to burn exotic ODay vulnerability exploits. when social engineering still works pretty well. We're all in this together, because no matter who you work for, someone else in this room has your same customers. And if your customers are really what's important and are your priority, then we've got to work together to protect them. And just thinking that those two people today are going to just have a happy accident and run into each other and start collaborating is pretty unlikely. It's not scalable as a defensive network. And so we have to change how we think about these things. And I don't just mean how we in this room think about these things. We have to do a better job communicating. We have to communicate with our leadership teams better. We have to align not just the technical risk, but the business risk, and build a holistic view if we really want to get resources, assets, headcount, budget for the full defensive programs we need to protect our environments. Even bigger picture than going to your executives to get resources is governmental legislative policy. How do we capitalize on the focus on security policy going on worldwide since President Biden's executive order was signed? Yes, that is an American executive order, but it has raised the bar globally, and it is setting the stage for future expectations and best practices in cybersecurity. How do we leverage that to get the resources we need? We need security leaders who are not just technically right, but have strategic vision and the gift of storytelling. They have to get the right message to the decision makers. The security practitioners frequently fail at this. We have this terrible habit of taking for granted that everyone understands what we understand and that they understand why it matters. We provide a lot of technical detail and data without the contextual analysis, and that excludes our audiences from what we're trying to convey. We force them to interpret the context of what it means for them and why it matters. And if we're going to capture this moment, we must leverage our storytellers to get the right message to the decision makers. And I don't mean marketing. I mean being pragmatic and accessible. But storytelling is not enough. Another bad habit we have in security is breaking things down and not building. So if we have 50 experts who have 50 different opinions on whether or not we should do a certain thing, we're not helping our policy and decision makers see the way to go. It is on us to do the hard work and not just say, not that, that's a terrible idea, but to say, hey, I understand you think this is a good idea. Help me understand, because I see these problems with it. What are you trying to accomplish? What are the benefits? And take the time to go figure out how to make it a win-win. It's really easy to say that won't work. It's a lot harder to say, but if we do this, maybe it would. And that's on us. We have to align our messaging and build that momentum, whether it's with internal teams within our companies for an executive proposal or cross-industry for legislative policy. We have to drive that collaborative story. And that's hard to do because we're all coming from our different perspectives. Defender coalitions exist today, and they have varying degrees of success. And fundamentally, that's because humans have a natural tendency to want to share information We're social creatures with a rich storytelling history. We spend 5 minutes on Twitter and you will see we love to share our triumphs and our failures at bread making or whatever it may be. And subsequently, we advance the collective knowledge base through this community sharing. But we're really bad at it in security. And it's easy to point to a lot of reasons that it's hard. If I share my best practices, adversaries will learn how to evade our detection capabilities. We can't trust people that don't work for us directly. In fact, some of you work in organizations that don't even trust other teams in your company. And if you've ever had a shadow IT organization, you know what I'm talking about. I've heard we can't share our key learnings of this mistake or this problem or this incident because we don't want the bad press that could scare customers. And so we let our customers get hurt because their other vendors and their other suppliers fall prey to the same attack we did because we didn't warn them. There are people in the room right now who think that partnerships are nothing more than fluffy marketing stunts to drive vague brand value. And there are people who think partnerships sound great, but don't see how they're feasible because of all of these issues. How do I measure the ROI? No one's going to share anything really meaningful until it's too late to be of value. And so we talk ourselves out of this and we say, you know what, popularity doesn't defend servers and we have serious work to do. But all of these excuses, and I am serious, they are excuses, boil down to one main thing, and that is trust. You can't collaborate without building trust. And collaborations can deliver ROI, and you can instrument and measure the outputs of them if you want to. But you gotta have trust. So trust is hard because trust requires humility. It doesn't mean that you aren't confident in your abilities. It means that you recognize the values others bring to the team, that you recognize you can't do it all yourself. You are trying to solve something bigger than you, and you need team players, that you function better together, leveraging each other's strengths. And you don't compete with your teammates. You compete as a team against your adversary. And that is at the heart of humility. Trust also requires equity. Equity means that this isn't a partnership if one party is controlling or demanding or inflexible or feels entitled to make all the decisions because of whatever reason, their size, their geography, their expertise. Equity demands recognition and respect for the fact that all parties have value and have power and have needs. And trust requires selflessness. Sometimes it isn't going to be about you and your shareholders and what you get out of it this quarter. Those of us that have defensive skills and resources available have an ability to help others that don't. And it's not enough for us as individuals to be committed to collaborating in our free time or as a carve out from our deliverables at work. Employers must step up and invest in intentional defensive partnerships that deliver demonstrable results and light the way for others to see opportunities to contribute. True Defender initiatives aren't a side hustle, and they can't only be a priority when your company has needs. We aren't trusted partners if the only time I hear from you is when you want something. And our customers need us to be partners defending them. So we're all smart and resourceful, and I know that we can make this work. So with that, I have to admit that unfortunately, we don't live in the movies. And there is no big bad villain for us to take out. There is no Thanos or Voldemort or Sauron that we can defeat and all their minions will just fall away and we emerge victorious heroes. We can weaken parts of the attacker ecosystem for a time, but they'll come back. New attackers will fill in their spaces, and we don't ever really get to be done, which is why we have to bring in and mentor new defenders every day and continually challenge ourselves to see new ways of doing things and new ways to make security more accessible to everyone. We have to create opportunities for more people to be secure. So I'd like to talk to you about the Defenders Initiative. It's an idea that a group of extraordinary people could become something more. That by working together, they could fight the battles to protect the world from cyber threats. That they would see more if they looked together instead of just looking from their one point of view. If you're a business leader, please enable your people to commit time to this. Put dedicated resources into industry partnerships and community building. Your customers need you to support this. This needs to be a part of your commitments and instrument it. Drive the business value. You're going to see it, I promise you. If you are not able to say, I'm going to make decisions for the organization, you're just an individual engineer, you can still get involved. Find a defender group that already exists and aligns with what you need to get done to protect your customers. Start building relationships one at a time. But not just with the people who are at your level or the people who are more skilled than you that you can learn from. Make time to mentor new and career security professionals. Help them grow their skills and expand the Defender network. They are our future, and this is not a sprint, and it's not even a marathon. It is a relay race, and we need them to be prepared. They're going to bring us fresh new ideas, and they're going to question why we do things. And not only will we have an opportunity to teach them, we will have an opportunity to learn from them as well. Invest in your storytelling skills. Think about, how do you visualize data? How do you present information? Should you use bullet points or a table? How much white space is on the page to make the content accessible? Is it overly technical? Is it not technical enough for your audience? And if this sounds completely miserable to you, find a great strategic storyteller that will help carry your message, because we need to make our message accessible to our audiences so that they can be a part of the solution. And finally, most importantly, don't lose sight of your mission. We're here to help, not blame victims of attacks. We must make security effortless for everyone, in every role, in every company, in every country. We can't save everyone, but we aren't giving up on anyone. That's our job. You know your missions, you know your teams. Be careful and look out for each other. This is the fight of our lives, and we're gonna win it, whatever it takes. Good luck.